You're listening to Keeping It Real with Janine, your guide to living an authentic, healthy life podcast. I'm Janine Strong, and every 2 weeks I have a fresh conversation with inspiring, interesting, and knowledgeable people. My conversation today is with Richard Scott. Richard Scott was introduced to the Human Design System in 2002. You will hear a lovely British accent, which is a giveaway that he grew up in England. And I know you will enjoy listening to his voice as much as you will enjoy the information he has to share, as much as I do. I think you'll find human design to be a fascinating window to understanding yourself. I used to call it astrology on steroids. Hi, Richard. How are you?
I'm doing very well today, Janine. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. I'm so glad we're having this conversation. I think probably most people have never even heard of human design. And it's such a valuable tool that I've been wanting to have you on for a while to talk about it. So thank you.
I appreciate that. Yeah, it's a powerful tool, yeah.
So how about starting with what is human design?
I knew that would be the first question. I always struggle with this. I don't have like a traditional elevator speech. But I was thinking about it. In fact, on my way to have this podcast with you today, I thought, you could say human design is about energy. That's how I understand it. It's about you could say your internal feng shui.
I like that.
So, yeah. So, yeah. How does the energy inside us work most harmoniously? Children have this straight from birth. If you look at the birth chart, and we'll talk about that more, I'm sure. If you look at the birth chart of a child and you watch that child in action, you're going to see they're living their Tao, their harmony. Then we know society comes in, puts a little pressure this way or that way, and our caregivers and what have you, and that draws us a little bit away from our design, sometimes a long way away. I know that's arguably the case in my case. So yeah, I think it's about aligning oneself harmoniously inside with the life force we've personally been given, rather than a generic template. So then once you find that inner harmony, you tend to, the outer circumstances of your life flow a little easier. Relationships get easier, health becomes less of a challenge, and so on.
So how did you hear about human design? How did you come in contact with it?
Actually, it was my mum. There's a great like a Mind, Body, Spirit magazine, we'd say in England, Kindred Spirit. Interestingly, the director of that magazine, he gave the magazine away to fully study human design. Richard Beaumont is his name. He's the director of human design in the UK now. So he looked into all these different esoteric systems, and he used the magazine to explore them and to share that information out to everybody else. And my mum, I guess, was thumbing through a copy one day, came across it. She's very instinctive by nature, very intuitive. And she said, I don't know why, but I need to go study this, or I need to meet the man. I need to go to this course. I need to meet the man who's running this course. And that, from what I can tell, the advert wasn't particularly descriptive, but something inside of her resonated, and she went for it. And she was only going for one day, if I remember correctly. One day to Newcastle, and then every night she'd ring home, hey, I'm staying. I can't come home yet.
She got hooked.
Yeah. And she came home buzzing. After those 5 days she ended up staying for, she came home buzzing, and then, and that was it. Then the whole family, we all had our charts done so we could understand ourselves a bit better. And I'd never been to uni, so my parents said, well, look, you didn't go to university, so how about we support you in kind of your further education with human design? And it was the right thing at the right time, I guess you could say.
Interesting. I know that astrology is part of it. The I Ching
Yeah.
is a part of it, because it seems to me that it pulls together. One of the things I like about it is that it pulls together so many modalities.
Yeah. Yeah. They say it's like the true Aquarian age synthesis. So
Hmm.
you have, as you say, the astrology's in there. You have the I Ching in there. You have the Kabbalah, um, the tree of life, and then you also have like the chakra system from the Hindu understanding, from the yogic understanding, the chakra system.
Hmm.
So, yeah, you have those four, if you like, coming together.
Would you like to tell the story of how this all got pulled together by the
Sure.
creator?
Yeah, absolutely. He uh, I'm sure he's now passed. His name was Ra Uru Hu. That was the name he was given, if you like, after the mystical experience he had for 8 days and nights on the island of Ibiza.
Hmm.
Ibiza. So actually, if you really want to know the story, you could Google the movie. There's a movie that was created, and it was called, I think it's called Encounter.
Hmm.
Um, Ra Uruhu, Rauruhu, Counter.
I'm writing that
Um,
down.
it's an interesting watch, really.
I wonder if it's on YouTube.
Possibly, yeah, possibly. I think it got released. I think it got released initially. The idea, as far as I understand, was it would, maybe it would be sold as a screening, and it seemed like there were maybe some copyright issues or something wasn't quite working. So Ra just released it publicly. Okay, everybody can have it for free, kind of thing.
Hmm. Well, if I can find it on the internet, I'll have a link to it on the podcast website.
Ah, yeah. So, I mean, that would obviously Ra could tell the story much better than I could. But from what I understand, 1987, he kind of pointed towards a supernova, 1987A, when a star exploded. The planet got saturated with more neutrino or stellar information than we're used to.
Hmm.
So maybe I should have said this when we were pulling together the different elements of the system. There's also a scientific element to it that, and actually, this is why I never personally felt drawn to astrology, because I couldn't make the leap from scientific understanding over to something a little more abstract, a bit more esoteric.
Hmm.
But when human design came around, Ross said that the way it works, or the way, if you like, astrology works or human design works, is that we're imprinted through the breath of the stars. The stars are breathing neutrinos, these like infinitesimally small particles, billions per second, pass through every square inch. It might even be in the order of trillions, and that these are traveling at near to the speed of light. So as they pass through a planet, they pick up a quality. So, pass through Mars, pick up a quality of Mars. And then depending upon where Mars was in the sky, we know if it were in Leo, for example, okay, it would take on the quality of Leo. Well, in human design, we use the 64. So I just went off on a little bit of tangent there, but I feel that was worth knowing.
Oh yeah, no, that's great.
So yeah, Ra had this mystical experience. He, as far as I understand, he was an entrepreneur, and he was a lecturer from Canada originally. He said that his life pretty much deconstructed. He left everything behind. I think he was listed as a missing person because he didn't quite know what was happening to him. And when you see his chart, when you see his nature, you can see that he was built to leap into the unknown like this. So off he goes. He found himself in Amsterdam, and via Amsterdam to Ibiza, and then ended up living in a ruina, they call them, just like a very simple stone shack, you could say.
Hmm.
He came home one night with he said he had a dog that was fairly wild. It was a wild dog. No one else could really, get near to this dog, but the dog sensed as it came up to the door. Excuse me, there's a detail I missed. The light was on in the ruina. He had like a candle light or an oil burning light, and the light was on, but Ra had the only key, and he had locked that door on the way out. So it didn't make sense that light should be on, because he wouldn't have left it on.
Hmm.
So that alerted them both to begin with, the dog and himself. And then the dog, from what I understand, kind of cowered down. This dog that was fearless, wasn't afraid of anybody. So this dog now cowers down, and I think Ra said as he passed the threshold of the property, turned the key, stepped into the ruin. As he passed the threshold, he was gripped by something, and a voice spoke to him. And he goes into quite graphic detail about how the sweat just poured out of his body instantly. The pools of sweat were lying on the floor, and he was gripped and held in this kind of, as he said, quite a violent state for 8 days and nights. And I think he said the only time it wasn't extremely painful was when the voice was speaking to him and downloading this stuff.
Wow.
Yeah, it's quite an extreme story.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to believe that, obviously. And I know in my early days with human design, I would hesitate to tell someone that because the system for me is so accurate. I didn't want to put them off with a story that may or may not be to their taste. Mm-hmm. So then he thought he'd gone mad. So he got this download of information. He thought he'd gone mad, and from what I understand, he burnt most of the information he was given, but came back to it after a year for some reason. Started to pick up the pieces, look at it. Oh, someone encouraged him. That's what I remember. There was someone else involved who encouraged him. Hey, what happened there? What was that? There were the Osho, Bhagwan Sri Rajneesh. There were a lot of sannyasins on the island of Ibiza, and I think they took him in, and they probably had a sense of what happened. He'd had this mystical experience. They don't call it channeling. It's more like a downloading. He was seeded with this information. And then apparently he started to play with the information and see what was going on, and it started to make sense. And then it just grew. And I guess, that was 1987. So however many years we are from there, is that 31, something like that?
I have to think.
Sorry to put you on the spot.
You did, yeah, right. You did put me on. Where's my calculator? It's such a fascinating story, and there are some points that you just revealed that I didn't remember knowing about it. So, were you the person who introduced me to human design? You must have been.
I think it was me, and then I think you studied with, was it Tito?
Yep. And then there was another woman. I can't remember her name right now. Yeah, Kathy. Right. Thank you. I studied with her. Mm-hmm. Interesting, but it just made so much sense to me. It's so all-encompassing. So tell us a little bit about then a chart. Like, what does a chart look like? And then maybe we can get into generators and projectors and their qualities.
Yeah, for sure. So the first thing when you see your chart, most people's initial reaction is confusion. Whoa, what do all these numbers and symbols mean? What's this? Why is it so open? Why am I so colored in? So if you do have your chart, this is for your listeners. If you do have your chart created at some point, don't be overwhelmed, please, by the massive information there. It really is simple, and most of those numbers and symbols you don't need to know. A chart's going to come back, and you're going to have two lists of numbers in your chart. You're going to have a black list of numbers, and this forms your conscious nature, and is the positions of the planets at the time you were born around we use the astrological wheel to fix our positions, but instead of using 12 positions, the 12 signs of the zodiac, we use the 64 hexagrams of the I Ching. Mm-hmm. So you have those, a list of numbers down the right-hand side in black, and you also have a list of numbers in red on the left-hand side. The left-hand side numbers, they're the positions of the planets approximately 3 months before you're born, and they form your unconscious nature. To be specific, it's 88 degrees of solar arc before you were born. But that's just a detail. Mm-hmm. Then in the center of a graph, you're going to have 9 centers, and you'll have 36 channels. And this is known as the body graph, the bit in the center.
And what are channels?
Channels are, how do you say? They are the connection of life force between two centers. Mm-hmm. And they all have a different quality, a different flavor, a different name. So the name gives you an indication as to what that means,
Mhm.
and then how that's going to live out in your life. So in 1% of the charts that we'll see, none of those centers will be colored in, none of the channels will be colored in. But in 99%, the remaining 99%, you're going to have at least one channel and two centers colored in, at least. There may be many more. Some people will have not all 9 centers colored
And what does that mean, whether a center is colored in or not?
in. Great question.
Mhm.
Well, if you have what's known as like a receptive or open or white center, then, or undefined center you might hear as well,
Mhm.
it means that you're receptive to the energy of someone who might have that center colored in.
Mhm.
So I can give you for example,
Sure.
50% of the planet are emotional by nature. 50% of the planet aren't.
Okay.
So it doesn't mean that you don't feel if you're if you're open or undefined emotionally. It just means you're much more receptive to the emotions of the people that are around you. And if you have your chart done, you see you have a white emotional center. You probably already know that. You already know how sensitive you are to the emotions of others.
Hmm. Interesting. So, so a person who has an undefined emotional center, excuse me, is more likely to be affected by other people's emotions than someone
Yeah,
who's defined.
yeah, I would say so, Janine. Yeah, for sure. Um, and then we would take that a step further and we'd say not only do you take in that coloring of someone else, not only do you take in the emotions that they're experiencing, so it makes you a real good empath.
Hmm.
You can really sense what's happening in someone else. Not only do you take that in, but you also amplify it.
Oh,
So yeah.
interesting. I mean, I think this is really important because, you know, some of us are seem to be like too sensitive, and other people can define us that way. Oh, you're too sensitive, but what you're giving here is an understanding, a reason for why that might be.
Yeah, very, very possibly, very, very possibly. You'd have to look at a couple of other things in your nature, but for sure, I can speak for myself. There are 4 primary motors in the body. We have the sacral energy,
Hmm.
the life force energy. We have the root energy. We have the willpower. This is an interesting one. Only 30% of the people on the planet have consistent access to willpower inside of us.
Hmm.
So 70% of us don't, but we're told to, go make that life your own. Go out there and make it happen. You will it to happen.
Hmm.
Um, but each of these centers have biological associations. So if you're putting an undefined, an open will center under the pressure to go out there and make something, will it to happen, well, you may not have access to that power all of the time. So then we end up finding out that heart disease is like the biggest killer in the Western world. Not to get too, I don't want to take it too dark, but this may be why these things are happening.
Interesting. So I think what I hear you saying is that someone who doesn't naturally have that will, if your human design chart was done for, say for the coming year, there may be aspects or things happening during the year where that will might be there.
Absolutely,
Hmm.
absolutely. Invariably you're going to have an activation. So from the positions of the planets, as I say, at time of birth and 3 months before, there'll be an activation, most likely pointing towards your will center. And then when a planet comes around, it can activate the other end. And here's the trippy thing where it becomes very, very real for people. You can have a look at the ephemeris, which tells you the movements of the planets, and they're predictable, so we know what's coming up.
Hmm.
You can have a look in your chart, and you can see, hey, okay, I've got this activation is hanging here. You can see a planet and watch it move in. You can time it to the second, literally, and you can have a physical experience in your body of a planet changing your energy.
Hmm.
Um,
Fascinating. Now, what about another person too? Because I know, like, if I recall correctly, I should have had my chart in front of me for this. Is that I have a lot of hanging. What's the term when a channel isn't complete?
Yeah, hanging gates. Yeah.
Hanging gates, right? For the at the throat. And
Aha.
I know a lot of times I'm just quiet. I don't say anything when I'm around people. But then I can be around other people and I'm like Miss Chatty Cathy. And knowing human design, I often think, wow, you must be connecting me up here
Yeah. Yeah.
in my throat center because I just can't stop talking.
You're really being hooked up. That's 100%. If you don't mind me sharing, Janine,
No, please.
uh, you're what's known as the generator type.
Right.
We've mentioned that we'd get into types at some point. So you have a lot of power in your body, and this it has this kind of empowering sense that's feeding into your sense of who you are, into your sense of love, and it's everything in human design is looking to get into the throat, either as like a material manifestation, so we create something, or vocal manifestation, we speak. So it's generally one or the other. You're either doing something with that energy internally to bring a form into the world, or translating that into the form of speech. And so you have all of that power. Someone hooks up your throat, which is undefined in you, and then all of this power then is able to express through you, either as language or action. Yeah.
But I need either astrologically a connection or another person who can connect with me with their chart.
Yeah, I would say that each individual is empowered and can stand empowered in their own sense as themselves, and in a way, not that we're not dependent upon each other. Let's say it like that. We don't need to be codependent, which sometimes can happen in human design. You can say, oh, well, I found out I was a split definition, so I need lots of other people in my life. No, those other people just give you different access to different aspects of yourself. Having a defined throat around for you all of the time, someone with a defined throat, might be just a little bit too much, because your natural state, as you say, is silence and being a peaceful person. Doesn't mean you can't be busy. You just become someone different when you have access to a hooked up throat.
We're talking about defined and undefined centers. So how does that affect us on a real life, day-to-day level?
Really, really good question. Let's see. So because we take this power in, because we're taking this energy in all of the time from around us into our undefined centers, let's say. So the vast majority of people will have an undefined center, and you're taking that information in all of the time. If you're aligned to yourself, and this is the whole purpose, I guess, of this system, is that you're aligned to yourself. And you follow your own inner nature. You come back to that harmonious inner place. Well, what can happen is the undefined centers can be a little bit distorting. So I'll use myself as an example. I have an open emotional system. I have an open root center. I have an open will center. I have an open sacral center. I have an open spleen center, and I have an open crown.
Wow, so that's a lot.
I think that's where all the confusion has come from in my life. So with an open root, if I'm not aware of that, someone could put me under the pressure. They could put me under pressure physically when I stand next to someone who has a defined root or a colored in root, a root that's become colored in by the positions of the planets. They will put that energy into me. Now that can either be for a positive thing, it can be uplifting, and I can move forward in my life. I can use that energy to motivate me into action. The root is about adrenaline and not really stress. Don't they say there are two types of stress, eustress and distress? So I have a choice then how am I going to use that? Am I going to use that in a distressing way? Am I going to really be in a hurry now because they put me under that pressure, and I'm using an energy that's not really for me, and it's it's quite destabilizing, and and I get to the end of the day and that person then is out of my aura, if you like, we're out of each other's energy fields, and I don't understand why my adrenals are fatigued and why I'm exhausted. Or if I know what's happening there, I can feel that person, I don't need to see their chart because I know I can feel they're putting me under that pressure. Okay, this person has a defined route, and I can choose then with awareness to respond to that or not.
What about the some of the other centers that are open? How does that? Because it seems like when centers are open, those centers, those energies, it sounds to me, and tell me if I'm wrong, but that you have a likelihood to be more susceptible to other people's energy.
Very definitely. Yeah, definitely. Okay, let me another real world example, the undefined will center. So 70% of the people listening now have an undefined will center, just by the basic numbers. If you have an undefined will, like I do, it's easy to feel or to not know your own value. So the will center is about how we value things.
Okay.
Those with a defined will center just have a natural sense of they are valuable.
Is mine defined or undefined? I'm curious.
You have an undefined will center.
Okay.
Now, depending upon how we were raised and our conditioning, it doesn't have to be like that. If you're raised in a loving household, doesn't matter what your parents' designs are. If they can hold themselves in a loving space and you in a loving space, it doesn't matter. But most of us, well, at least in my experience, most of us weren't fortunate enough to have that. No matter our parents did the best they could for us, it didn't work out like that. Or school. The schooling system maybe hits you off kilter, and things happen, and maybe there weren't conscious parents around to encourage you into therapy, maybe, or
So it sounds to me like the concept of, do you know the concept of epigenetics?
Yeah, is that Bruce Lipton?
I'm not sure, but I know the idea of epigenetics is that your genetic makeup is actually, I don't know if I want to use the word altered, but it can be shaped by your environment and your experiences.
Yes.
So it sounds like you're saying the same thing here.
Well, you're gonna take me down an entirely different avenue here, and I don't want to confuse your listeners. We're at a crossroads, and there's a whole other system where that epigenetics information comes in. Will we go there, Janine?
It's up to you, my dear.
Okay. Yeah. Well, then I feel we should. I
mean, if it comes up, I think we should follow the thread.
Okay. Well, then, so this system then, as I say, was created by Ra, and there was a guy called Richard Rudd. Is a guy called Richard Rudd. He still exists. He's very much alive. He lived his design. So the promise with human design is that you live your design for 7 years, and then after those 7 years, all of the cells that are going to be changed in your biology now have been changed, and you've been reminded of your true nature, who you really are. You've been feeding that information back in and back in and back in, and constantly reminding yourself of who you are. The conditioning drops away, and then you become your true self. Well,
fascinating.
Richard, you could say, is an example, and he has it in his design to be a role model, to be an example. Richard is an example of someone who has lived his design And I heard him say just recently that it helped him find his own rhythm. He has an energy of needing to find a fixed and regular rhythm that works for him, and then that begins to affect the life force energy in him. And a whole new understanding from human design then has branched out of him living that information, and lots of his other studies as well, to give him his full respect. He's a poet by nature. He studied language, English language and literature. He went on his own mystical journey around the world and studied with some of the world's greatest teachers. And then from his human design understandings and investigations, out came this whole other thing called the gene keys. I don't know if you're familiar with those, Janine.
Yes, I am.
You know about the gene keys, yeah. And there Richard really talks about epigenetics. Epigenetics isn't spoken so much about in human design. If you refer to the specific human design literature, they'll tend to say, this is how you are, this is how it is, you're fixed from birth, and that's kind of it. And then Richard's kind of saying, well, you might have a fixed nature by birth. There might be specific channels that are there in you, but there's a spectrum of consciousness within which you can move. So you could personally experience the shadow state of your inherited or given incarnation, or you could experience the gift level of that, or as he calls it, you could experience the divine level, the Siddhic level. And he's very big on attitude. He says that your attitude determines your altitude, how far you're going to move up in that frequency.
I love that. I love that. See, that makes sense to me. That really does. Because I have always had a bit of a problem with the idea that everything's just fixed and that's it. Tough luck.
Yeah. It does. It's not very inspiring, for sure.
Interesting. So, yeah, in fact, I'm pretty sure I have a book on gene keys. So, interesting. We've talked about channels a lot. Let's, if you can describe a little bit about what a channel is and what that means, whether you have a channel, like I know I have the channel of discovery, and that's a channel that I have. Can you explain to people a little bit about channels and how that works?
Absolutely. So I'll use that channel that you just mentioned there as an example to illustrate. So the channel is made up of two what are known as gates. So you have a gate at either end of the channel, and the gates become active by the positions of those planets.
And the gates are attached to centers, right?
Exactly. Thank you. Yeah, okay. Exactly that. So when we look at your chart, you have the 29 is active, and the 29 is one of those 64 energies from the I Ching. And anybody who knows the I Ching will know that the 29 is actually, they call it the abysmal. It's about saying yes to something, saying yes to life, and then kind of getting lost maybe for a while because you've said yes to something. Well, I don't quite know where this discovery is going, but I have said yes to it and I stay committed to it. 29 is about the energy of being committed. The other end of that channel then that you have is the 46, and that's about the love of the body. So you've said yes to the journey. You have the 29 is in the sacral center, which is the energy of vitality or the life force. So by saying yes, it feeds that energy through the 29 into the experience of loving the body here and now. And that's it really. If we could all be there, if we could all follow your example and love our bodies in the now, then we empower ourselves to head in our own direction.
What channels do you have?
I have what's known as the 1-8, which runs from that diamond, the self center to the throat center. And I have another channel, the 1762, the channel of the, if you like, the design of an organizational being. So the channel of inspiration, the design of the creative role model, the 1/8, and and the design of the organizational being.
Mm-hmm. So how have those channels served you or not served you?
Well, I can straight up say my mind wants to control everything. It's
Mm-hmm.
is a kind of a logical mind that I have, and it can see the big picture, and it wants to have all the details sorted. And if my body doesn't feel safe, then my mind wants to get in there, and I want to have it all planned and worked out, and then I can start trying to control my life, from the mental level rather than just letting it happen.
Mm-hmm.
How has my mind served me well? Um, I guess I don't find it hard to understand anything. If I've got a good teacher, I can pretty much understand anything I want to.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
My 1/8 channel, the 1/8. Well, if you have a connection from the self center, what they call the G center in human design, to the throat, you can be a little susceptible to your voice being criticized,
Mm-hmm.
because your voice comes from your sense of identity. When you speak, your words they wouldn't be like the words from my mind. The words, they have a different kind of tonal quality. So when they come from my G, when they come out of my sense of self, I guess it serves me well because I can help people, I can direct them, and they can hear there's a sense of authority as I speak. Wow, he's speaking from his sense of who he is. But
Mm-hmm.
but then if that's criticized, or it can be a bit sensitive to it's quite painful when my words are rejected or criticized. Yeah, yeah. I think it's my openness that has caused me more trouble than my defined channels, I would say.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, yeah.
In what way?
Well, like I say, I have the 4 open motors. The will, the emotions are considered a motor because the passion can drive us forward, or the desire can drive us forward. The
Mm-hmm.
root center, the sacral center for vitality. Having those 4 open and living in a house where all of those 4 were defined as a child, I looked
Mm-hmm.
to my dad. Okay, I've got to be like him. This is what a man is. This is my role model. But you see my dad's design and mine, they're nothing alike.
Mm-hmm.
So I tried all of my life really and here you go, here's the undefined will center in me not knowing my own value. I tried all my life to prove that I was a man, but I
Mm-hmm.
didn't have the energy capacity to be a man like my father. And psychologically somewhere I knew that all the time. I'm faking this. I haven't
Uh-huh.
I haven't really got the energy to back this up.
Got
Um,
it.
yeah, emotional center. So if you have an open emotional center, you cannot always be particularly happy with confrontation. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so, or truth. You don't want to face the truth. And this Janine, this still gets me to this day. I've successfully managed to avoid myself for for most of my life. Well, all of my life. I've had periods of, true self-reflective honesty, but part of my reluctance or hesitation to come and speak about human design is I still feel like a fraud. If I'm on, if I'm 100% honest about it, I've studied it for 16 years, but I'm still healing. I'm still discovering myself. I'm still finding out what it means to. I haven't mastered it, if you like. I haven't mastered myself. So,
Mm-hmm.
you know.
And maybe that's not the point. Maybe the point is the process as opposed to the end goal. I don't know. I'm just
You could well be right, but my undefined will center doesn't want to give me an easy enough time with that. No, I've got to prove myself.
Oh gosh. So, okay, so there are three categories. There's generator,
Yeah.
projector and reflector. How about let's talk about those because everyone is one of those, right?
Yeah, actually, there you could say there are four types because you've got the manifester as well.
Oh, right, right, right. I forgot about the manifester. Sorry. Okay.
That's okay. Um, and then maybe there's a fifth type, um,
The
which is
manifesting generator.
you got it, you got it.
Yep.
But it's nice to if someone is a manifesting generator, it's nice to maybe tell them they're a generator because life works a bit better if they live the generator way.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So you've got 1% which are reflectors. They're the people that have the entire chart open. They have none of the centers colored in. So everything for them in life is conditioning. Every person that walks into their space, the reflector is taking a little sample of them. They're having a little taste of who they are. I do have definition. I have centers colored in, and so I don't know what it's like to be a reflector. But from what I understand, they can read everybody really well.
Mm-hmm.
And the reflector is looking for a surprise because nothing's really new to them. They've tasted everything by the time, they're 12. They've met everybody. They've had an experience vicariously through other people's energy of everything life can be. If you have a big attachment to the moon or a big pull to the moon, you could well be a reflector, 1% of the population.
And that's not a very big percentage, but I mean, I was surprised. I think I had like 3 or 4 reflectors around me at one time.
And
Quite
nice, nice.
So, okay, so that's 1%. So I believe if I remember correctly, the generator is actually the biggest percentage.
Yeah. So if you bundle the generator and the manifesting generator together, they're about 70% of the world.
Mm-hmm.
And it's roughly 50-50, 35% for the generators. You are a generator, Janine.
Mm-hmm.
And that noise, actually, you just made that that's perfect because that's the reflexive power of the sacral, your energy, your vitality speaking. And is yes, is an affirmation, is an affirmative. And that feeds perfectly into your channel of discovery that works through the 29th energy, the energy of saying yes. Yeah, come on, Richard, let's keep going down this avenue because,
That's funny.
My energy is available for this avenue. And actually what it tells you is there is discovery potential down here. If we keep moving down this avenue, there's the potential for discovery. And here's the thing, we complain and we don't necessarily like the way the world is, and we're not 100% happy with the leaders we have around, the decisions they're making. The generators own the power on the planet, whichever way we like looking at it. Generators have the life force within them, and if they down tools and they just say, well, we're not working, nothing gets done. If we look at it the other way, if we can wake the generators up and say, hey, look, if we align you to your true power, if we can put you in touch with that, or you can discover that yourself, you're only getting in touch with the force of life, and life wants us to thrive. If you consider yourself an oak tree, whatever tree or plant or animal that you like, you look at any animal in nature. I always used to marvel. I was marvel at this. You can't tell the age of a wild animal once it's gone past its birth stage and it's come into adulthood. You just can't age that animal until right at the end of its life, and it has a quick decline. But human beings, we, yeah, we know, and I don't think it's. I include myself in that. My openness has sent me down some avenues that have damaged my health, and I've had to. How do I get out of that conditioning because I'm aging faster than I'd like. I don't think it's meant to be like that. I think we're meant to live with that joyous vitality, particularly the generators. And if the generators have it right, because generators, and I include manifesting generators with this, because that 70% of the population set the tone for the rest of us. Everybody would be in the blissed out environment that we all want to be in.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, it always comes back to this for me. If we can align people, if I can play my part and align people to their power inside their body, all I'm putting them in touch with is the same power that germinates a seed or allows an oak tree to develop and stand there for 500, 1,000 years. That strength and power and the vitality of life that's coming through a generator, and then the contribution you can make is tremendous. When you see someone like yourself, Janine, who when you have a passion and that vitality is going somewhere, and it's focused in, well, for you in discovery, it's it's an awesome sight. I never used to like it because I used to think I needed to be that because my dad's a generator and I needed to, I used to feel a bit jealous that I knew I didn't have that. But when and this is the beauty of knowing your design, you can step back and appreciate the beauty of other people. You don't have to, oh, well, I want what they want, or I'll copy their life because they seem to have it together. No, live your own life, be everything you can be, and then life feels like, wow, this is it. This is I'm living the life I was meant to live, and I know it because I can feel it in my bones. And
what you're saying right now, it sounds like really this is the benefit of knowing your human design and having someone help you to understand it.
100%. Yeah, that's the potential. That's the potential. And I'm not going to lie. It's not an easy path. Coming back from that conditioning, I don't know the majority of your listeners. I don't know if they're on their own healing paths and consciousness paths and open themselves up to shedding that conditioning. It's not an easy path, but it is the hero's quest or the heroine's quest. It is the searching for the Holy Grail. It is to find ourselves, isn't it? That inner gold, that inner richness that we all have within inside us. But if we can get it to children, if you have children in your life, and you can have a look at their design, they don't have to go through that. They can tap into that vitality. For example, if they're a generator, and you can find something that's absorbing from them for them from day one, and then they get to live their real mastery, because they'll have, if they're lucky, 70, 80, 90, 100 years of never being disconnected from their connection to life.
So valuable. Wow. So the next one then would be manifester.
Yeah, we can go manifester. So
okay.
The thing that makes a generator is you have that life force colored in. If you're a manifester, you have one of the other three motors at least. The life force, obviously, the sacral is one of those motors. If you're a manifester, you have at least one of the other motors: the root, the emotions, or the will. You could have all three. You could have two of them. You could have just one of them.
Okay.
And that power source then is directly connected to the throat. So you have the power to initiate instantly. You can make power happen. Whereas yourself, Janine, in contrast, is better if you're asked questions so that we get to hear what your power says. And we had that example earlier on where it's So that would all that noise there. That's a yeah. I hope you don't mind me pointing that out.
No. I think I find it rather amusing actually.
So that's your power saying yes. Well, the manifester in a way doesn't need that. They can feel a little more lone wolf, a little more independent. The name manifester is maybe a little by implication, it suggests the other types can't manifest or don't manifest. So maybe if you think of a manifester as an initiator, everybody can manifest. They just have a different way of doing it. If you think of a manifester, they're initiating. They've got power connected directly to the throat. They can get into action straight away. And how can we say? Oh, so we have aura types here as well. This is worth mentioning. Aura types. The generator has a big enveloping aura, and you kind of get pulled into a hug or an embrace. You can feel it kind of come over you when a generator's in the room. If you're not a generator, the manifester has kind of a little bit of a repelling aura. It's a little bit closed, and it's kind of saying to people, "Oh, keep out of my way. I'm an independent action person here, and I need the freedom to act." And that's what manifestors love. They love freedom. They're looking for peace. Manifestors are looking for peace. Generators, by the way, are looking for satisfaction or fulfillment. They want to be saying all day long. Every moment can be an orgasmic moment. It might be a mini one, but it is a release of the sexual energy, just a little release in the right direction. That's satisfying. That's satisfying. All day, every day, all day, every day. And the aura expands and the power expands and the fulfillment increases. So the manifestor is they want to find peace within themselves. Naturally, they look to the outside world. But the real peace is to be found, obviously, within inside themselves. Mm-hmm. And if we think of energy flow and harmony, the manifestor just needs to find a way to release that power into the world resistance-free. That's all they want. Again, children, if you know you've got manifestor children, try and give them as much free reign as possible. They're going to do things that generator children or projector or reflector children won't do. Manifestor children, Ra, the guy who started this system or had it revealed to him, said I think he was like 3 years old, let himself out the front door because he knew how to, wandered into the woods behind the back of his house, and he knew he was okay. But his mum was freaking out because, it's nighttime. She doesn't know where her son is. The police were out. Everybody was out looking for him. And he was just happy in the woods. So manifestors need freedom. If you find out you're a manifestor, sometimes it can be about re-owning that power and having another go, because a lot of manifestors will just shut that power down and they won't use it because they're used to people getting angry and putting up resistance to the free movement of their energy. Or being told no as a child. They've been told no a lot, so they start behaving, and manifestors are not meant to behave. They're meant to break the rules. They're meant to do things that go places, initiate things that no one else would really feel to do, because they're our starters.
I'm just thinking of who I think is probably a manifestor. I guess I should do that chart. Interesting. So are you a manifestor?
I'm a projector, actually.
You're a projector. Okay, so let's go to projectors.
Okay, so projectors don't have the sacral color center colored in, so projectors don't have that power center available to them. Well, not consistently. They have life force. They have available life force to them, but they have to maybe be a little more conscious of how they use their energy. And also, projectors can have those motors that we spoke about, the root, the emotions, and the will, but if they do have those motors colored in, they won't make a direct connection to the throat, because that would make them a manifestor.
Okay.
Yeah. So projectors are here as the guides, particularly the guides for generators. Every generator or manifesting generator chart you come into, you see is going to have that red square colored in. Every projector chart you see will have that square open. So we know that if you have an open center, you're receptive to the energy that's being given to you through that defined center. So projectors make great guides for generators and manifesting generators. Manifestors tend not to ask for guidance because they have their own power. They know what they're doing. They know where they're going. So it's mostly projectors and generators, and this is kind of supposed to be the new humanity. So manifestors used to run the show. They're dropping away a bit, and now it's generators. They say if you find out you're a manifestor in this lifetime, then you really have to. This could be if you believe in reincarnation, this could be your last life as a manifestor, or you could be closing the cycle for manifestors. So really live it, make the impact that a manifestor is designed to have.
Mm-hmm.
Projectors want they want success, and when they don't get it, they end up being a little bitter. And because I am one, I can speak quite honestly about that. You're looking to be recognized by people for your capacities, not just anything. You want to be recognized, those channels you asked me that I have, so the 1762 and the 18. If people see those energies in me, and if you're a projector, if you find out you're a projector, then find out what defined channels you have, and then think about the people in your life who recognize those energies in you, and notice how smooth those relationships are. And then think about those other people who don't see those qualities, and how difficult those relationships can be. They can be transformed, of course. You can stop playing the games down those avenues, and people will learn that, okay, you're not behaving the way I'm used to you behaving, as the conditioning drops away.
Mm-hmm. Well, sage advice. Thank you for all those projectors out there. And then we have the reflector.
Yeah, like I say, reflectors, I can't tell you too much about that because I'm not one. So I have something that I'm only going to see myself in a reflector. They say if you have a reflector, and you were lucky enough to say 3 or 4 you had in your life,
yeah,
they say we can fall in love with ourselves because all you see in the reflector is an aspect of yourself. Yeah, and the reflector knows that. They know, they know that you're projecting onto them, for example, as I've done. Yeah, and I can think I have a reflector friend. We went to yoga school together, and when I think of her, my heart sings. So I don't know if that makes me really narcissistic, or I don't know how I get to see her and love her truly. But nonetheless, there's love in my heart for her, very definitely. I don't know what more I can say. They're very open in nature. They can do very well in life. The reflectors I know tend to find their way to communication positions or therapists.
Yes, that probably would be a good venue for them, wouldn't it? Fascinating. Wow, Richard, this has been awesome. I hope people are really getting something out of this. And in fact, this is encouraging me. I'm going to, after we get off, we're going to talk about having you work with me with human design some more again, because I've let it go. And I feel like I need some guidance in my life right now. So you're going to be it.
Very happily, very happy.
I mean, I've always felt an awesome connection with you, so I'm sure that, there's a reason.
Excellent.
Let's see. Is there anything that you'd like to share that you haven't before we close? And I will also, after you do that, we'll talk about how people can get a hold of you, how they can get their chart done.
Sure. The biggest mistake I would say I made going into human design. So if your listeners find that they're heading into that and something sparked an interest, there's so much information, and Ra, the originator, makes it very clear. There's only really 2 things you need. You need to know what's known as your strategy and your authority, which all that means is we've all got an intuition, whether it's your gut instinct or trusting your heart or trusting your nose. Everybody has that quality. There's somewhere inside of them where they can align to the life force, where they can live their life. It's really easy in human design, and I've done this. It's really easy to get lost in the details, get lost in...
There's so much. It can really be overwhelming.
100%. So I would say to anybody who, this is what I would like to leave anybody with. If you look into it, however you find your way to it, I guess is perfect, and your journey is your journey, but tread lightly maybe. don't feel like you have to learn it all instantly, and until I've learned it all, I'm not going to be myself, and there's all this other extra. No, you don't need to know all that. Just maybe find out your strategy, your authority, where it is you're supposed to be looking inside yourself for your inner knowing. And then once you have that, play with it. And that, I would say, not much more than that, unless you're the type that needs to have all the details. And that's not everybody. No, it's probably the majority don't. Because it's very, very easy to get lost, and then like me, 16 years down the line, just resurfacing. I'm just now coming out from the details.
Fascinating. I really enjoyed delving into it and doing people's charts and helping them. And I don't even know now. I can't remember why I stopped. But I've done so many things in my life where that's the case. I really get into it, and then after a while, it just feels like it's time to move on to something else for some reason. So I seem to be a gatherer as opposed to stationary. So how can people get their chart done? How, if they wanted you to do it, or how could they get a hold of you? How can you assist them?
Well, I'll happily create their chart for them for free.
Oh my goodness.
That's fine. I mean, it's just me here. I don't have an automated website, so you'll have to bear with me. It may not be, what we're used to, instantaneous result, but if you bear with me, I'll create your chart. I've got the software here, and I'll send that through to you. I have some audio links as well, so that will give you some intro information. What I feel actually, and I said I was going to do this straight up, Janine. When I was thinking on this, how can I serve people the best? The thing you need to know is your strategy and your authority. You might be interested in all the other stuff, channels and lines and gates and what centers have I got open and what's this relationship connection. If you come to my website and request a free chart, I'll send you an audio that tells you what your strategy and authority is. So straight away you can go, and that's for free. You can go away, you can practice it, and then that might draw you in deeper, and you might, okay, I do need to know more. But then you're empowered with the information you need to go live your life as yourself. That's
That is really an awesome offer for people. So if they want to delve deeper, then that would be something you would charge for, of course.
I have bills to pay and a life to live. So obviously I need to till I win the lottery. I can't do it for free. So of course I would charge. But again, if money's going to be a barrier to you needing to know who you are, then talk to me. We can work something out. But strategy and authority, anywhere you go in human design, they're going to tell you the same thing. Do you know your strategy and authority? I don't see why people shouldn't know that for free, other than they might not value it and they might not use it. If I find that out, then I'll start charging for it.
And that can be an issue, I've found.
Yeah.
Very often when you offer something for free, people don't value it, which is crazy. But so how would people contact you?
So if you come to my website, it's www.yourbornidentity.co.uk. So the word your, Y-O-U-R, born, B-O-R-N, identity, and that's co.uk. You'll find a click through from there to, actually I call them a DNA birth chart, because I was playing with Richard Rudd's information as well. And in the human design community, it can be a little bit purist. You're not allowed to combine it with anything else, and fair enough, respect to Ra and the purity of the information, but that felt a bit restrictive to me, so I call it a DNA birth chart. You'll see that, click through, and there'll be a link. You can get a free chart, and I'll send you a strategy and authority audio as well, so you can go experiment and see what works for you.
That's awesome. Thank you so much. So if I will also at the podcast website, realjanine.com, and remember Janine is Janean, kind of think of it like Jane Ann. I will have a link that you can click on so that you can go right to Richard's site. Oh, Thank you so much, Richard. This has been a delight, and for me, it's been a wonderful, great review, which I really appreciate because it's been a while for me. So, and I'm sure that our listeners will get a lot out of it, and hopefully they'll take advantage of your kind offer, because understanding yourself you can only benefit from that.
Yeah, yeah, I have nothing more to say.
Well, and sometimes knowing that, oh, this is inherently who I am and how I respond to the universe, and it's kind of like it gives you breathing room. It makes it be okay to be who you are.
That's a very, very good point. Yeah, because you relax about the fact that I don't know, you're an investigator by nature, if we may share that. You have a first line personality, so it's important for you to just to feel stable in the world, that you're allowed to investigate into things deeply. I'm a fourth line personality, what's known as a 4/6, a fourth line personality. It's important for me that my friends allow me to influence them a little bit. It might be annoying, but they give me a bit of leeway on that. And and I know quite quickly, I can feel it. If I'm trying to influence someone, okay, have I got my timing wrong? Did they ask me? Am I respecting the energy here? Or now I can feel it with someone. Yeah, you just won't let me influence you. And it's no judgment on them and no judgment on me. Whereas before it would have been, maybe I'd have been judging that person. No, that person and I aren't in resonance. There's nothing wrong with them. There's nothing wrong with me that I want to influence. Yeah, it goes deep. I think it sounds kind of cheesy, but I think we've kind of scratched the surface. We've just given people a little taster. It can go very, very deep.
I think what we've talked about here will give people enough of as you said, a taste or a sense of what it's about to know whether it's something they would like to investigate.
Yeah, exactly.
Great. So thank you so much, Richard. It's been wonderful.
Thank you for your time.
Okay,
bye now.
Bye. Thank you for listening, and thank you so much, Richard Scott, for sharing your wisdom and your expertise and sharing with us the ability for people to be able to get their DNA birth chart done. I know it's valuable from personal experience, and I think you will find you will benefit too. The podcast website is realjanine.com, once again, where you can listen and download episodes. Sign up for the podcast bi-weekly blog newsletter that I write to keep up on new episodes. It's only twice a month. There'll be archives, new episodes, life updates, and always a yummy recipe. And once again, remember, Janine is Janean. This podcast episode went a little bit longer than usual, but I think it was well worth it, and there were a lot of benefits. So to subscribe to Keeping It Real with Janine, you can go to iTunes or your favorite podcast provider. I now have a Keeping It Real with Janine YouTube channel, and I'm creating video slideshows of all of my conversations. Go to YouTube and subscribe, please. Do you know someone who would benefit from my conversation with Richard Scott? I know you do. Please share the love. Thanks for listening. Take care and be well.